to my channel. Today's video is going to be a bit different as I'm going to be interviewing myself. I've received some interesting questions from some longtime followers, and I thought it would be a fun way to share more about myself and my experiences. So let's go ahead and get started and introduce our first guest, Alanna Pearl. First off, let's dive into a bit of your background. Can you tell us where you're from and how you got started in the fashion industry? Absolutely. I was born and raised in Durango, Colorado, and my journey into clothing design and wardrobe styling began when I was living in Los Angeles from 2011 to 2020. I got my start by assisting Brett Allen Nelson, and I found myself with some pretty unbelievable opportunities through that. Okay, so tell us a bit about Pearl. Where does that name come from? Is that really your last name? Pearl is actually my middle name. It comes from my great-great-grandmother on my father's side, and that's where I get my nickname Pearly from as well. I've always been curious of Pearl. Now I have another question from one of our followers. Who or what inspired you the most in your journey, and how did they impact your work or passion? Great question. Growing up, I was deeply inspired by the work of David LaChapelle as well as Miles Aldridge, and found myself constantly looking at fashion editorials. One of my favorite magazines to look through for this reason was Zinc magazine. They always had really creative editorials, and I used to collage them on my bedroom wall. Okay, next we have a question from Hot Skillet Ho on Instagram. They ask, what was the best or worst part about when and where you grew up? Well, best and worst is how small Durango is. It's definitely not known for its fashion, and it is just now barely becoming more of a creative artist's hub, with a lot of that credit going to my longtime friends who have committed themselves to bringing a new kind of art to Durango as well as inclusivity. It definitely felt very sheltered growing up here, and I had extreme culture shock moving to Los Angeles, but I still loved it. I can only imagine how wild that must have been. Our next question here. Did you always have a clear vision about the things that you wanted to achieve in life? No, absolutely not. I honestly still don't know what I'm doing. I've always made life decisions organically and with my heart. And I firmly believe our hearts remember everything from our past lives, and it's our brain that has to relearn everything. I couldn't believe some of the opportunities I was given in my 20s, but it was definitely a learning experience because I quickly realized not a lot of others lead with their heart or make decisions based off of that. And honestly, sometimes I feel like my heart can lead me to a dead end. But I keep reminding myself if my path in life is clear, I'm probably on someone else's path. Okay, going to move to the next question. That one made me tear up a little bit. What was your stint like in Los Angeles? Was it a fulfilling experience? Los Angeles was an interesting experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm thankful to have made it out alive, however. I got many, many amazing opportunities for creative work. That was definitely the most fulfilling part for me. Getting the chance to assist Brett Allen Nelson was really formative and changed the way I approached creative projects. And assisting him, I was able to work on David LaChapelle sets for quite a few years, and that is something that I'll be proud of forever and I'll remember forever. And I definitely feel like I could have done a lot more with my time in Los Angeles had I had more of an idea of why I was there. I still am happy with my time spent. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your styling work. We have a question here from Mina Avidal on Instagram. She asked if you could speak a bit about styling Little Peep for his music video Awful Things and what he was like to work with. Of course, it was very sweet to meet him. He had a really youthful nativity to him. He was also very kind and polite. He enjoyed to make things fun on set for everyone, and it was extremely easy to work with him creatively. There was definitely a bit of darkness surrounding it all, however. I think that was like the drugs or the addiction side of things. I've always been really sensitive to that sort of energy, as I do have family members who struggle with active addiction. But I think meeting him and seeing the way he interacted with others definitely opened my eyes to have a bit more patience and understanding for those that struggle with addiction. A couple months after filming Awful Things was when he passed, and although I had only gotten to work with him for that video, it was very impactful to me. His energy radiated positivity even when it seemed like he was going through the darkest times of his life. I'm thankful I had that opportunity to meet him and work with him. Wow, that is a lot to be processing while working, but leads me to my next question. Why did you move back home? Has that been fulfilling? And if so, how does that differ from your lifestyle in Los Angeles? Yes, I had started to attend school in Los Angeles summer of 2019, and since I was going full-time, I was not able to work as much. So I very quickly fell into a deep depression while trying to maintain my momentum for school. But I was not able to afford living there, and I honestly wasn't sure how I was going to make it through my couple years of schooling there. March 2020 hit, and with that came the pandemic. By March 15th, I was on my way back home to Colorado with the intention of staying for 2 weeks. My 2 weeks has now turned into 3 years, but I was able to finish school online, and I got the realization that I was much happier here in this environment. I was able to be outside and connect with people from my childhood for what felt like the first time in my life. It definitely gave me the reset I didn't know I needed coming back here, but I have been really thankful to be with my friends and to be able to apply my creative experience from Los Angeles to my community here. Thank you for being so open about how that felt. Just the last couple questions here. Juan Pon on Instagram wants to know why you deleted your old account at Alanna Pearl. Good question. My account got suspended and deleted in February of 2022. I was getting like insane amounts of bot followers per day, and I kept getting community guideline violations, although I wasn't posting very much. So I kind of just took it as a sign to start fresh. I had this like weird feeling of pressure on my old account. And so I felt like I wasn't reaching the right people either. So I kind of just started a new one and didn't fight the suspension on the other. Oh, Instagram. Such a love-hate relationship. I have another question here from Mina Avidal. She's curious about the large thigh piece, the tattoo on your left thigh there. Of course. It's based off of one of my favorite Miles Aldrich images called Immaculée No. 3. I got this tattoo when I was maybe 18 or 19 from a local artist here in Durango. His name is Matt Rousseau. The image is of a Virgin Mary, or I've seen people also refer to it as a Madonna. But the image is really beautifully saturated. Her face like holds so much emotion, and it always really moved me when I was in my teens. It still is honestly one of my favorite images. So I basically just asked him to elongate into a full piece basically on my thigh. It really is a beautiful tattoo piece. Okay, last question here. We're sitting in your living room doing this Q&A, and Top Loft Till 3 wants to know, where do you get your interior design inspiration from? That I could thank my mother for. She ended up opening an antique shop about 10 years ago in Aztec, New Mexico, where I've been working with her since moving back. She has a really great eye for furniture, and a lot of what is in my house is from our store. There are quite a few pieces I collected over my time in Los Angeles, however. But moving into this house, I knew I wanted like a lot of plants, warm feeling and textures. It feels cozy, warm, and welcoming in here to me. I'd say my inspiration is just getting what I like and trusting it will all make sense together at some point. I think that's a great note to leave this on. Thank you so much for answering our questions today, Alanna. It really has been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to thank you all for tuning in and watching this special, this unique interview with myself. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me a bit better. If you have any more questions or ideas for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my upcoming content. Until next time, stay chic, my freaks.